I grew up here in Maine in a family of antique dealers. My parents, grandparents, my great-grandparents on one side were all in the antique business here in Maine. That start gave me a sense of historical continuity and appreciation for the past. My wife and I both went to the same high school. I went to the University of Maine, and one of the professors I had was Robert J. Albion. The National Maritime Historical Society have an award in his name. I was so lucky to have him as a freshman, and he developed in me an appreciation for documenting history. The motivation to tackle a project like Halfway Rock Lighthouse started as just a modest interest. The way that the federal government disposes of lighthouses is a competitive process with a great deal of emphasis placed on the qualifications of the bidder and what their intentions for it are. But as I got into the process, it really motivated me to see this through. There's this auction process. Every time someone bumps the bid, it starts a 24-hour clock. So the auction can never end until 24 hours passes without a bid. In the end, the price had gotten up to $290,000. Just the acquisition process took a year and a half. And by the time I had acquired it, I had enough historic material to write a book. I never gave a great deal of thought about the expense and the amount of work that's involved in something like this. I was not particularly intimidated by the size and complexity of it because I do a lot of this type of work myself, and I can muster people to help me. There are 850 lighthouses in America, 66 in Maine. It's in a breed of lighthouse which is called wave swept. So it's 10 miles offshore, and it's on a 2-acre rock with nothing growing on the rock. But it's at the mouth to a very important harbor, Portland Harbor. And in the 1870s, when Halfway Rock was built, Portland Harbor was the 7th busiest harbor in all of America. There were railroads coming out of Canada and all over northern New England into the port of Portland, so there's a great deal of rail traffic feeding shipping traffic, but in these very dangerous waters. It was staffed 24/7 for 105 years. These wave-swept lighthouses were difficult duty. Sometimes the more salty, crotchety lighthouse keepers who'd been in the service forever would like being out there. This lighthouse is also in another small classification called Stag Lighthouse. It was so dangerous and so inhospitable that families weren't allowed to go out there. It was all men all the time. But it was basically solitude and discipline, and it drove some people beyond their capacity for tolerance. The walls are 50 inches thick. Each piece of granite weighs as much as a pickup truck in this tower. At the very top levels for running the horn and the light. A couple stories in the lighthouse were bedrooms. There was an office, a full galley out there, and the lower level was an elaborate workshop and boat shop where you could do everything that was needed to live and operate a lighthouse at sea. In 1976, as part of the federal government's efforts to reduce labor costs, they automated Halfway Rock as they were trying to do elsewhere in the country. They removed all the staff, removed all the archives, all the furniture, and boarded the place up. And windows got broken out, seagulls moved in. And because it's on the National Historic Register, I had the obligation as the new owner to restore it with historical continuity. So it's called a period of interpretation. You have to be approved by the federal government for your period of interpretation. We went for 1950. I have many, many photographs of the lighthouse at all periods, but particularly around 1950. Parade magazine did a 12-page spread of just Halfway Rock during World War II. So those were really helpful for me on the details of how they laid out the kitchen and everything else. I got a call from the Discovery Channel putting on a series of TV shows about this type of work, and I said, I don't want the publicity. Some people are going to think this is a crazy undertaking, and I'll wait until it's done before I draw any attention. They offered me $40,000 to follow me around. My wife was saying, stop saying no. This is important money to go to the restoration. And so the Discovery Channel booked 14 filming days over the course of one summer. And so with about a year's advance warning, I lined up the work and sequenced the work. The benefit was that it was completely presentable in the way I wanted it. We now have a lighthouse that's been completely restored, and a lot of attention has been brought to Maine lighthouses and perhaps lighthouses in general. It's among the more celebrated lighthouse restorations in the country. My plan was to have a restoration that would not need constant attention. So the systems that we put back, which are solar, very simple water system, composting toilet, the restoration hopefully won't be an ongoing project for me and whoever follows in my shoes. Halfway Rock was done. Then the storms of this past January 2024 came, and we confronted climate change head on. The Gulf of Maine waters heating up at a rate that is beyond all predictions, and it's causing weather patterns that are more severe and more frequent than in the past. Over a 3-day span, we had the 2 highest tides ever recorded, and they coincided with modest winter storms that battered the coast of Maine. The structure had the windows broken out on the second level of the boathouse. The first floor was completely awash. We have splash marks of salt water 3 feet up the walls on the second floor. So we're restoring a few aspects of this lighthouse. It's not a disaster, but it's a definite eye-opener. We're dealing with historic preservation folks at the national level, in Congress, certainly at the state level, and also with lighthouse experts to try to figure out how do you mitigate this type of damage in the future. So we're using our example hopefully as a learning experience for others so they can avoid the similar outcome. I greatly appreciate receiving the Distinguished Service Award from the National Maritime Historical Society at a personal level. It's certainly gratifying to have that type of recognition, but it is importantly a tool as we're trying to get the attention of politicians and funders, local regulators, historic preservation people to realize the importance of bringing resources to protect these lighthouses in the face of climate change. To have a credential like this is certainly going to help open some doors for the people that we need to deal with, and I'm grateful for that.